go.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining our Winning Teams podcast here for the Fallen Bed-Tacathon, benefiting Ukraine, particularly the folks in Ukraine. Thought I'd do a podcast with the winning team to kind of get an overview of, how you guys kind of, just the whole A through Z, how you guys banded together, how did you guys come up with the idea, that sort of stuff. So let's start with the round robin. I see to Josh first. Do you want to start with could you start, please?
Oh, of course, yeah. So we had, I think, 3 ideas that we were thinking about, and we sort of narrowed down to this one because we wanted something that's workable in a couple of days, and just personally speaking, I've been tired of these chat messaging services like WhatsApp and Telegram. And it's just such a mental burden and hassle to check in on everyone who's in a distressed area. So this really spoke to me, this idea. I think Brian came to me with this idea. And yeah, so it's just very close. It's just very close and it looks very usable to me in very, very real situations. So I was instantly pulled into this idea.
Leah, did you have something to say?
Yes, I think that the fundamental thing that helped us was the fact that Jamil actually did an excellent job in assembling us because he kept in mind what our skill sets were. And so we had some back end people, we had some PM people, we had some front end people. So I think we had a good variety of experience levels and skill sets.
Awesome.
Do we want to introduce all of ourselves real quick?
Yeah. So that was to Josh, and then I see Brian next.
Hello. What were the questions?
Yeah, just like how you guys kind of like, I know everyone's super tired, but how you guys like banded together, formed this team, because I know everyone that initially was in this team fell out somehow, and so there's always like a attrition rate with these hackathons. But curious how you guys all met and formed the team, and just like your background would be great.
Yeah, so I work with Josh at Zencaster. So we kind of knew, I think, that we'd be working together. And then, honestly, people just kept showing up in our team channel. And, the ones that are here, the ones that stuck around, and it was a pleasure to work with them this weekend. As for coming up with the idea, this might be like slightly cheating. I don't want to show my hand too much, but I actually got the idea from Paul, who's one of the judges, because of something that he said in a work meeting a couple weeks ago. Is where that came from. So, but I'm just glad that we were able to bring it all the way to fruition.
Awesome, man. Great. Would love to dive deeper into that as well. Ian, do you want to go next, please?
Sure. So as I guess to introduce myself, I was attached to the veteran community. I was supporting some other folks who were out of Detroit, and was a veterans incubator basically for entrepreneurs. But I was co-founding, and so got brought in. And then as far as joining this team, I was helping out on the back end more for prepping up the hackathon and seeing how things are going. I was kind of loose, and I think Jonathan had actually invited me, and he was hanging out in your team room, or in this team 6 room. And so and then he disappeared. I couldn't find him after that. But everybody kept talking, and I was like, yeah, I can contribute. So I was sharing whatever I could. And then, being able to speak with Vlad and just get a feel for what the rest of the scope of need was, and the fact that there was someone there who was very close to the ground about what's a priority and what are the dynamics. That was pretty much the number one thing that engaged me. Like, one, that there was an active team, and that there were people who were receptive to thinking through ideas, and then two, that there was a connection very close to what the challenge is, that, as far as the practical needs. And then third, being able to see, as we explored into it further, just the relevance in many other situations, right? Like domestically, I have a lot of indigenous friends, and just being able to know someone's okay sometimes in places that sometimes you don't have connection, and so, but then of course, obviously, just the current needs that were there. So, yeah.
Cool deal. Yeah, I think I see DJ next here.
Yo, what up? My name's DJ. Joined the hackathon. I was previously with another team, but then got put with Brian and Josh and Leah, and I reached out to Shao, and I was like, let's all get together. And then Ian came in too, and so yeah, I'm a veteran, and I've done these hackathons before, but this was a really well done project, and it was cool. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Sweet. Yeah, let's go with Leah next.
I'm Leah. I'm based in Seattle, and I'm a Navy veteran, and I'm a self-taught front-end web developer. And I'm about to graduate as a full stack Java developer in about a month. And yes, DJ said it very well. I think the one of the most fundamental things that we have a cohesive team. And I think that everybody was open-minded in the positions that they took in this project. And even if they didn't exactly know what to do, I think everybody kind of took ownership of a lot of different things. And I think that we were open-minded to each other's ideas. So I think that was the most important thing, is that we had a very cohesive team with varied skill sets.
Cool.
All right, awesome. Shao?
Hi, yeah. So I'm very new to coding. I'm still in a boot camp. I know very little. And I missed the first day of the event. And DJ messaged me on Saturday morning, was like, hey, do you want to join my group? And I was like, I don't know that I can contribute to anything, but sure, yes, I'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. And it was a really cool learning experience to see like all of this get pulled together so quickly. And I think something I'm realizing now is that this particular group was really well organized, and it just kind of helped move things along, I think.
Yeah.
Awesome. Vlad, you want to go next?
Yeah, good to see you all here. My name is Vladimir. I've been invited to this hackathon as a Ukrainian judge, so a Ukrainian software developer. However, right now I'm in Tallinn, Estonia. So not physically located with my people there in Ukraine. However, we did have some Ukrainian participants in the hackathon, which I was really proud of. I guess it's really important to say for me that, Jamil, I'm super grateful that you engaged the veteran community in this. It sounds like there is a really large mission going on, is empowering veterans to become tech professionals. And it's super powerful, and it brings hope in me that this kind of experience will spread to Ukraine, because I know it seems like in the US there are like veterans who become in tech, and in Ukraine I have friends who are like tech people who are going to become veterans pretty soon. So
Wow.
I feel much closer now to this community because of this. So I'm really happy about this kind of collaboration going on. So yeah, I'm just a software guy, and I've been like passionate about software since I was a kid. And when I was a kid and participated in hackathons, I was really I was paying attention to the tech side of things, and now I'm kind of really paying attention to what's really important, as what does the software do. So that's kind of a brief story of me in the context of this hackathon. And so yeah, we're celebrating here that this team executed pretty well. Did an app that well, somebody should probably talk about what it is. So Brian, could you like explain what the app is?
Yeah, so I think the short answer is it's an app that you have to engage with at some rate. Be like once every 12 hours, once every 24 hours. And you connect with your friends and family on this app in groups, and if you don't engage with the app every like 12 hours, 24 hours, a notification gets sent out with the location you were at the last time you engaged to like the people in your groups. And so the purpose of this is, basically there are people who are using a group chat and like at some ratio they do like a safety check, or like they check in with everybody. And there's a lot of inefficiencies there, just because like gathering that information, building that group, keeping track of like who has responded if there's an ongoing discussion. And so by moving this into its own sort of thing where you tap a button once and it engages with all of the groups you're a part of and says like, hey, I'm safe. It really makes it easier to keep track of those things and to engage with in a meaningful way.
Brian, did you already say how you came up with the idea? Or like what
Yeah, I mentioned in the intro, but it was because a work meeting I was in with Vol here, Vladimir, where he was talking about at the beginning of the invasion how he was using WhatsApp in the morning or at some point throughout the day to connect with his friends who were still in Ukraine. And so that's really what seeded the whole idea that grew out of that.
check-in stuff? Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Or go ahead, Bud.
Yeah, just kind of anxiety automation.
Anxiety automation. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you have like an anxious kind of call that you need to quench it somehow, you have this app, so you can click and ask people to say that I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how everyone divvied up the task and what task everyone had and what segment of the app everyone worked on. Would love to do another round robin of that. That'd be cool. Start with Josh here.
Hey, so I mainly started working with the Python backend, which is just a Celery task queue manager that gets messages, queues up tasks, and the tasks being notification and sending out alerts when it's time for you to check in and you haven't checked in yet. And another task would be like if your relative hasn't checked in, at least has missed the past 3 check-ins, then you get a notification.
You built the whole like notification system, right?
Oh, I actually part of it. I kind of build the routing logic which triggers the notification. But notification is done through Firestore itself, so we don't really, and the stuff that Brian worked on. So I didn't build the notification part, but yeah, the logic of it. So yeah,
I think
go ahead.
I think you're touching the mic, and we don't have tech to fix it just yet. There's some noise happening in the background, so when we post it, we won't be able to clean this up yet.
So is this better? I'm facing directly the mic. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I was saying, just backend stuff on using Python and Celery with RabbitMQ as backend for Celery to store messages. And yeah, I just Dockerized that part and pushed it. After that, I was just teaming up with Brian, mostly there, seeing what he does.
Awesome. Yeah, Brian, you want to go next and talk about what areas of the app you worked on?
I think that it's a short list for areas that I didn't touch. No, I spent. I kind of built out the framework in which everything lived. So I grabbed the template for the front end that we adapted for what we needed, and then I just
you
kind
really had
of
the vision for the whole thing. You did.
I try to divvy up the work and help people.
You did great.
So I think that these are great opportunities to learn new things. So I tried to support the team in doing that as kind of my primary goal.
So I kind of want to walk back to that. So my main thing I want to do here today is kind of celebrate your execution, partly. And so you just started we had a template. So you knew what you want to do, and then you had some ideas how you can execute it technically, and then I want to hear your shortcuts that you took to spend the least amount of time executing and focusing on the problem. So.
Yeah, the first thing is picking a stack that I know lets us move quickly. Something that I helped out another team, and I saw they were using React and GraphQL and AWS Amplify. Those are great technologies, but I don't think they enable you to move at the velocity you have to for a hackathon. So we used SvelteKit, which I think it's very ergonomic to work with. And just about anybody can pick it up and be effective in it in the span of a weekend. DJ came in not knowing it at all, and I saw some of the code that he wrote at the end of it, and it looked like code that I would have written. And so it's really powerful in that way. Using Tailwind CSS and Daisy UI on top of that for our styles and components, because they're framework agnostic, they look good enough. And then just not trying to reinvent the wheel, grabbing a template and just breaking it into Svelte components that we could adapt and use for what we needed. And the other big thing is that Friday during breaks and discussions and even while we were discussing, I built out the agnostic parts of the app. Pretty much whatever app you land on, a dashboard layout is a pretty safe bet. Because most websites have a dashboard layout. They just do it a little bit differently. Building the login and sign up forms. They ended up not being used, but that's okay. But just building out the stuff that every application will need first, because then if we get to Saturday morning and we pivot, we haven't spent all day Friday working on stuff that was super tied to this idea. And so then the app kind of as you refine the ideas, you refine the app alongside with it. Instead of building something, tearing it down, building something, tearing it down. Yeah, go ahead, DJ. What's up?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I made a comment in the group chat, but I know in previous hackathons, a lot of teams spend a lot of time debating and discussing how they're going to build it and what they're going to build, whatever they're trying to build with. And there's a lot of back and forth. We didn't have any back and forth. Brian already had some stuff ready to go. And I was just what are we doing? Oh, you want me to do this? We just took direction from, we didn't have much discussion or back and forth about that. We just kind of were building from the get-go. And I think that helped us just build fast. And Brian was saying, I didn't know Svelte at all. And last hackathon, I didn't know React, but just kind of, I take these hackathons as an opportunity to just kind of learn some new stuff. And I was asking Brian a bunch of stuff and trying to see what Tejas was doing. But it was, we basically didn't waste any time trying to discuss about the tech stack. We were just building the whole time and in communication the whole time.
Yeah, it looks like. Yep.
Oh yeah, I was just saying there's a funny story that sometime before we were retiring on Friday evening, we had decided to store all these events in a MongoDB, but then taking inspiration from what we do at Zencastr, I was like, why not use gnats? But Brian really doesn't like gnats for hackathons. So that's the joke that I sent on chat. So most of my Saturday morning went into celery plus RabbitMQ, which would give the same functionality as gnats.
Okay, so let me recap this. Brian championed the stack that he knows really well, right? That's what happened. And so it was learning opportunity for DJ. Ian, what do you think about this? Yeah.
I was to say I was also sort of a interstitial role. I tried to support kind of with a project management lens, but also I'm very new to the tech world, and so one thing I learned just from the vantage I had with seeing how Brian, I call it like repertoire, right? He had this familiarity with all these different applications, plugins, and how they work. And that helped a lot where, some of our team members are very new as well. We're I think about half of us are learning very new roles or technologies and everything else, languages, all of that. I lean more on the design side, but being able to translate and ask and, having, I guess the way that I'd say it is that there's this polarity between what you already know can work and then things that you want to see if they work. And Brian has a good handle on the stuff that he knows that can work. And he was able to also pass it on to us, even if we had no idea what we're looking at. And, come back to the night before launch day, I guess, if you want to call it that for today. There were tools that he shared on the first day that I just started to realize how it works and that it could be useful. And he was like, yeah, that's what I shared with you the first night, And so that's something that I think was very helpful. But again, I just want to applaud, everybody on the team for their just very adaptable dynamic that we had. It was very action centered. So people would build something or bring something up and share it, and we'd try to see how to make it work. And also there was also a very, I think it's often understated, but it's like the encouraging dynamic about hey, if you don't understand what's going on, neither do the experienced people do. There were periods where we were solving through just the technical concepts, the problems of how do you get this messaging back and forth, and how do you make sure that it's being processed in a way that, accommodates for lost battery or internet connection or whatever else. And at that point, even someone who's brand new, who doesn't know anything about what a full stack is or what the specific language being coded in is, we were able to engage and also interrogate, what are the other dynamics or dimensions of the use case and things that, just make for a more holistic development process.
What were you trying to say, Leah?
Yeah, so Ian and I worked closely on the user interface side of things, and we both worked on the logo, and really excited about that. But and then I actually came up with the name of the project, and we just pretty much came up with the lower level user experience type of things, like we chose to use dark mode because it consumes less battery, and we took into consideration the fonts, because if you use the more fancy fonts or the fonts that are not native to the browsers, sometimes it takes up more internet. So we kept those things in mind, and we kept in mind about Ian is always saying about compassionate and giving it a more compassionate and lighthearted feel. So I just pretty much worked on that presentation and got everything, with the colors, make everything look nice. And Zhao and I, we did some documentation together on on how it works in the GitHub repository.
And I just want to lead into something because Xiao and I have talked a bunch about, because she's getting into tech and learning to code and everything, and she's done HTML and CSS. And then me coming onto this project, talking to Brian and seeing what's going on, I was like, so what are we doing? Oh, it's a Svelte project. Oh, how do I get this going? And I'm npm installing and getting it running locally, and I'm hitting up Brian, and he shows me how to get it running locally. And then immediately after that, I go to Xiao and I'm like, Xiao, come to the hackathon, blah, blah, blah. And like on the first day, she has done nothing JavaScript related, but she like spun up a terminal with VS Code and like got the project up and running on the first day. And that was like crazy. And I was like, yo, Xiao, okay, there's a lot going on, but this is really good. And just try to play around with this code and stuff. And like, I don't know, like Xiao, like seeing this from the first time, like the code and like this team trying to collaborate and define an idea. What are your thoughts, and like how was this whole experience for you?
It was pretty overwhelming, honestly. I know when you first brought it up, you were like, this is going to be like drinking from a fire hose. And I was like, oh God, okay. And that's exactly what it was like. But yeah, I think this team functioned really well together. I think the organization was there. I think people were like flexible. It was really welcoming. And that was really important to me. I think it made things a lot easier for me to just kind of hang around and try not to get in the way mostly.
So what did you learn like as you were hacking through the fire hose?
I learned that I think organization, like communication, is really important for events like this. And I also I learned how to write a README file. I've not done that before. There's components of that are important to have in there. And like presenting what you're building in a certain way is also really important. And also I think we kind of scrambled to put together the presentation at the end. And it was really interesting to see like that come together, and also kind of why there was so much struggle with that. It felt like more than with the building. So I don't know if that made sense.
We definitely had a last minute scramble to try to get the demo, because we were all like trying to add stuff to the demo and we all envisioned how it would go, but that definitely was a last minute scramble.
So when Leah was talking at the beginning of the presentation, we were waiting for the last build. It was actually building as Leah was talking. And it finished with about 30 seconds to spare.
That's great.
Yeah, I know
That's
we were
incredible.
we were also doing some last minute changes to the presentation while other speakers were going. So I think that kind of benefited us a little bit. And I think that the fact that we all took part in creating that presentation document, I think that's really set us apart from the other groups in a way, whereas like one person was talking about it and saying, well, I don't really know about this part. I don't know exactly every detail of what everybody did, but I think that each one of us can give a basic overview of what's going on. And I think that putting that presentation together really helped drive that home and help all of us get involved in the presentation process.
Yeah.
Ian, what do you think about it?
Yeah, as far as the presentation, I think I just want to speak to one of the Ukrainian teams, where to kind of drive home the context of like the range of needs that were going on, right? Like I think it was Ilya who was saying, "Oh, right now I think it's 1 MB per second, internet right now." So we were in a pretty fortunate position to have everyone who's very tech capable and able to be here throughout all of it. Which obviously, like being able to have a team like this where there's high communication and there's a good propensity to experiment, as well as folks who know how to bring it back in when we need to actually make it work. I think those were important ingredients that were there, and maybe it's something to account for in the future, just to recognize that they're really important efforts going on in less than optimal situations than what we've had, but on the whole, that we're definitely grateful for everything that we were able to have too.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one more thing about the demo and the collaboration at the end. We were all editing these Google Slides, and it actually went through a lot of changes because like we were waiting for code to build, and everyone was looking at the slides at the same time. And slides, we know like we don't want to just do a slideshow, so we were trying to make it interactive. And I had an idea like, let's just put emojis and stuff, and like we were gonna put emojis everywhere. But then it's kind of serious subject matter, the Ukrainian crisis, refugees. So we kind of took out some emojis that might have made it more lighthearted, but kind of trying to be respectful of the tone. And the other thing was, if you look at our logo, it kind of looks like a Ukrainian Pokeball with a heart in the middle. So I was thinking, oh, Pokemon, like, it's like a Pokeball, like we're doing check-ins. And so we're like, we got to check in with them all. And we were going to do like a little tagline. But again, that kind of like takes away from the kind of seriousness of the whole thing. But those are just kind of some funny behind the scenes things as we were trying to figure out how to bring everything together.
Well, the layers of how much thought went into this is kind of starting to peel out, and it's very heartening to hear. So I mean, I would never think that so much thought came into logo before you would talk about it. So I'm kind of grateful that that happened. Yeah. I mean, so you worked on the logo, right?
Yeah, that was I think that was a really big part of it. Like Ian and I, we spent hours, and we even worked with other teams, and I think Ian and I both. I think that the logo represents represents what we were both trying to convey. Like I immediately thought of the pin with the Ukrainian flag, and then he came up with the colors, and I think we both. This is probably one of the first times I've actually done something as far as UI that I feel like my feelings were conveyed in the art.
Wow. Yeah, I think this is something that I daily try to convey through the code that I write. And it feels really good that there are people out there who are trying to express feelings through their work as well. I was really happy to hear that. And thank you for sharing this. Awesome. Ian?
Yeah, if I could build on that, I mean, it's sort of like we had a bunch of stars, right? And the constellation shifted a bit, especially after I got to speak with you, Vlad, on some of the needs and really clarify the picture. And so I feel like on the design side, at least, and even as we were prepping up for the presentation, just the narrative was really key for again, reframing the paradigm around what's there. Because, on the back end, a lot of the functionality is the same, right? But there's a difference between checking in from this kind of pull dynamic, as we discussed, versus like one where it's like, hey, I'm sending good energy your way, kind of a thing, right? And so that was something that I think, like, as the hackathon progressed, being able to really kind of look at it in that light and kind of have a better sense of like, wow, this is what we've really made as a platform that you can move in a couple directions with. That really helped even just bring coherency to how we thought about like who else could be using it or how we're presenting and why we're doing it again, in from different facets.
Wow.
I guess one thing that's kind of jogging through my head is I'm curious what everyone's favorite part of the hackathon was. There's so many different workshops and classes, but yeah, I feel like it might be different things for different people here. So,
why did you leave without Jamil?
Yeah, no,
so
I never know what these thoughts. Yeah.
What was your favorite thing about the hackathon?
That it was a smooth event. I mean, it was operational. It worked. People attended, and we got to help actual folks here. I think it was really gnarly that we got to post in Ukraine's sort of like premier dev community or their main dev community, and got our word out there internationally. I was really surprised to hear that we had folks from like South Korea, India, obviously Ukraine. It's just like a global event. And, when I first started these, I never thought that it would lead to anything like that. And like for the future events, I mean, I'd love to do like a global veterans sort of, and this has been brought up before, like, veterans from all over the world that are into technology. I think that'd be pretty sweet if we all can compete with each other in a digital realm. But yeah, those are some of my favorite parts.
Well, way to grow, Jamil. That is a huge step for the hackathon, I guess. Congrats.
Definitely. Thank you so much. What was your favorite part?
What was my favorite part? I think so. I kind of made my childhood hero as the first keynote. So Brian Cantrell was, I think I was growing up reading his code, and dtrace was my number one topic of discussion when I was like a junior developer. I was trying to use it for all things that it was not meant to be used. For example, like I used it for iOS development, and I was trying to push it through the iOS community. And then I kind of started paying attention to JavaScript because, they had Solaris running JavaScript software in their USR bin directory. That was crazy. And I kind of got to just meet the man himself. So I think that was my highlight.
And what was dtrace?
So a dtrace is a language that can you express actions like if you're running this function, you got to stop and do some recording. And this way you would like dynamically trace a running program. And it could not be limited to a single program. It could be like any program in your computer. You could say, I would like to stop on any time there's a function that processes an incoming packet from the internet. And I want to like count how many times it runs. So you can dynamically instrument any part of the program for performance reasons or for debugging. So you can have like a bird's eye view of what's going on in your computer.
Huh.
And that was like 2004 when it was released. And I was using it in like 2010 or 11.
And I looked on Brian Cantrell's Wikipedia, and he was saying something about, he said something about they were having some kind of discussion, and he was like, do you even have a girlfriend? Was that like what was the context of that?
I think it was some kind of like a Linux kernel mailing list discussion where like Linux would, I think it was something about like Linux was being proud of how much support they have in Solaris. I don't really much remember the context, okay. But I think there was a very controversial message from him.
Brian, yeah, that's funny. What were you saying, Leah?
Yeah, well, so for the sake of not repeating myself, I know like my favorite part was, of course, when we got the demo presentation. It was really nice seeing, 6 different people just making a document come to life. But I digress on that part. But I think my favorite part was when Brian Barry, the marine intelligence guy, spoke about misinformation. And I think that is a very essential part. That was a very essential presentation that I think that the public really needs to hear about, because there's so much disinformation, and a lot of people don't understand they don't realize how they're being misled. And I think that if we understand how we're being misled and we try to combat that, we can be in a better place. So I think that, maybe, I'm gonna leave it at that.
No, that was good.
Yeah, this talk was dope. Ian, go ahead.
I was going to add, in the side we were talking about, just how international the hackathon was, but also I think one thing I really enjoyed seeing within the team, but also across other teams, was just the collaborative dynamic that was there and how supportive people were. It didn't really matter which team you were on. There were folks who were willing to step in and give guidance or share tools. And even just chat and make jokes, together. And so that was fun. And, it kind of culminated in sort of this laser pointer party in the VR environment at the end with the music and everything, which just a interesting way to see how people came up with creative use for how to show up virtually. But yeah, I think it's a lot of what makes the hackathon. I've only been to these to two hackathons, and it was through these. But like, it's just the heart that shows up, right? Like a lot of people are there, they care about something, and there's just an amicable tone that's been pretty welcoming. So that's that's where I'd place my gratitude.
Yeah, for me, I would say like I love so many things. I love the speakers. I love meeting everyone and working with everyone. It was really cool. I got to learn a lot. I thought it was interesting in the beginning. We were coming up trying to figure out what idea did we want. There was a lot of back and forth, and we're trying to understand the problem of one thing we talked about in the beginning was like a location based stuff. Like this is cool because we could do stuff with locations and maps, but we want to be careful not to make this location data available because those locations could potentially become targets. And I was originally against kind of the idea of the check-in app, the check-in idea, because I was like, it seems so simple, and it's like, what? Like, I was like, this is just not that interesting, but it's a simple problem. But I like that even though it's a simple problem, I feel like we came up with an elegant solution. The idea of the groups and the idea of like, how do you, like I just feel like we came up with an elegant solution to address the problem. Like people can only invite people they know, and you're not exactly sharing location data, and you could potentially be in a bunch of groups. So I just like the idea of just wrapping it up and like having a simple, elegant solution at the end.
Awesome. Yeah. Any other favorite moments from anyone else before we wrap up here?
Hey, Jeff, what about you?
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, Brian, first, go ahead.
Okay. I think my favorite moment I think is the is the same favorite moment I have at every hackathon, and it never really gets old, and that's when it's like 4 or 5 a.m. Or you've been up all night and like you've been fighting with this one final bug, and you finally get that bug fixed. You go through the entire user flow from beginning to end, and you kind of like hit that goal. You reach the target, and it's really like at that point you kind of you're like we could win, we could lose. Like we built something and we had a good time doing it. We learned, and so like that's always my favorite moment. It's just hitting MVP, hitting the prototype, just taking a step back and just like reveling in that.
It's nice to have to hit a target that you have,
especially in such a short time period.
Yeah.
Because we're talking the longest hackathon I ever participated in was 48 hours, maybe like 54 hours. And so you're just busting your ass, usually just for the sake of busting your ass.
Right.
I've never won prize money at a hackathon or anything. So just doing it for the sake of the joy of doing it.
The dopamine rush you get afterwards.
Yes.
So much better than any dollar amount.
Just kidding.
Tejas, what about you, man? What's your most favorite part of the hackathon?
Oh, right now as we speak, I'm submitting a bug report to Brian. So I think so. I've been on many hackathons as an engineer, and specializing in machine learning. And the hackathons usually I've been to are like do something in blockchain and cryptocurrency and blast carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, just running these extremely complex algorithms that are not going to take you anywhere. And if it's a more software engineering hackathon, then you usually use a service that is provided by one of the sponsors, and then the sponsor gives you the best app idea prize. So in that regards, this hackathon was the most unique and kind of very special. This victory, I have won hackathons before, but winning this one is really close to my heart, because we are doing something good. Something good came out of this. Every hour we spent, I think Brian and I were up until 4 a.m., his 6 a.m. And I worked with Brian late nights before during our transcription release at Zencaster. And it's always fun listening to his commentary. But every hour that we spent working was towards a good cause. However small a step we took, it was towards a good cause, and I'm proud of that. So the end product is, I would say, my favorite moment. And to put my money where my mouth is, I spoke to Jamil, and I'm going to add in my own $100 to the prize money to donate to the cause. So yeah, Slava Ukraini.
I'm Slava.
Awesome to hear. As a team, have you guys figured out which charity you guys want to donate to? I know Vlad suggested comebackalive.in.ua. I've heard of others like Nova, but yeah, it looks like DJ has something to say here.
Well, I was going to say, what was Xiao's favorite part? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, totally sorry about that.
I think what I thought was really cool was seeing what people came up with. I'm kind of at the point where I don't really know what's possible with coding yet, because I don't know much about it. So it's really cool to see people have these ideas and then just bring them to life, and for them to be applicable to something that's happening right now. It's really cool to see.
Awesome.
Yeah, getting the first user is definitely the next step this team could take. So, I mean, the world is your oyster. Maybe you will learn something about how the city needs to be shifted, or maybe you get like a ton of users. You get to find out.
Yeah. Yeah, for the charity, I don't know. Do you have the list for the charities? We haven't really talked about it as a team.
Yeah, we weren't so sure about after the finish line for the hackathon.
Yeah, I'll put it down in a list and send it to you guys in your Slack.
But we assure you we'll pick a good one.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, I think this is a great place to end the podcast here. Thank you guys for joining, and hope to see you in our future events.
Thank you.
One second, let me stop.